Good morning. Let me talk to you about the story of David just for a few moments and show you two things David did in his life that allowed him to continue on and pursue God and for God's blessings to be upon him. David did have his struggles just as you and I do on a daily or monthly or weekly, yearly, a lifelong basis. But David knew a couple of things, and the first one's found in Psalms 56. Now, Psalms 56 is attributed to being written around the time David was fleeing from Saul. Saul had tried to kill him 3 times. And after the 3rd time, David's on the run. He comes across some enemies, and they're threatening him in a big way. And David's in a real spot. He doesn't know where to turn, but notice what he says in Psalms 56, verse 8. Thou tellest my wanderings, put thou my tears into thy bottle. Are they not in thy book? When I cry unto thee, then shall mine enemies turn back. This I know, God is for me. And you know, believer, God is for you too. In Romans chapter 8, verse 31, Paul wrote, What shall we say then to these things? If God be for us, who can be against us? Who can stand against us? God is for you. This is what David knew. Regardless of the distress he was in and what was caving in around him, he knew God was on his side. God was for him. So he knew this. So what did he do? That's the second thing out of 1 Samuel, I believe chapter 30. You find David in another stressful situation during the same time of his life that Psalms 56 has been written. And David's about to be, matter of fact, he's abandoned by his friends and everyone. And David is having to do something to regroup. I mean, it's a low point in his life. The enemies have come in and taken away his family and all the families that he was with, their children, and these men are incensed at him. Matter of fact, they talked of stoning him. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 30 and look in some verses here. Verse 4. Notice what it says, 1 Samuel 30. Then David and the people that were with him lifted up their voice and wept until they had no more power to weep. They were in a bad situation. And David's 2 wives were taken captives, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess and Abigail the wife of Nabal the Carmelite. And David was greatly distressed, for the people spake of stoning him, because the soul of all the people was grieved, every man for his sons and for his daughters. And then here's the thing that David did. Now, what is his first thing? David knew God was for him. The second thing is David did something. What did he do? Look here in verse 6. Every man for his sons and for his daughters. But David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. What does that mean? He decided, well, God, you're on my side. I don't care about anybody else. No. David inquired of God. David went to God. He went into prayer, supplication, and encouraged himself in the Lord and picked himself up and moved on. And what he did was he pursued the enemy, got back the people. Everything subsided. So 2 things today I want you to think about. What did David know? Do you know the same? David knew God was for him. What did David do? David encouraged himself when nobody else had a word of encouragement. You can't depend on others, but you can depend on God. God will encourage you and move you on to pursue him. You think about those today, and if God's not for you, then he can be if you'll come to Jesus Christ as your personal Savior. And Christian, if you're down because of all that's going on, from the media to the real threat, then encourage yourself in the Lord. Pick up your boots by their straps, your spiritual bootstraps up, and get up and go on for God and do God's will. God bless you. We'll see you next week.